Hey, I'm John Cannell. Today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making a classic, delicious strawberry shortcake. So let's get started. First off, set your oven to 425 so it is scorching hot. And now, in a large bowl, we're gonna measure out 4 cups of all-purpose flour. That's 480 grams. Perfect. My scale's done. To sweeten things up, I want a 1/4 cup or 50 grams of granulated sugar. Pour that right in. And to puff things up, 1 tablespoon of baking powder. These shortcakes are beyond easy to make and basically foolproof. They're not called shortcakes because of their height. Short refers to the texture. I also want a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Don't forget a teaspoon of salt. So short is actually the opposite of chewy, like a shortbread. Shortbread and shortcake are both gonna dissolve on your palate, they'll break right apart. It's the opposite of a chewy bread, which has that stretch and pull from the gluten. Give it a good whisk. If you've never had a shortcake, it's basically a sweet version of a delicious flaky biscuit. So the best of biscuits with a little bit of sugar, so it's more on a dessert level. It's gonna pair beautifully with our macerated strawberries and whipped cream. All mixed up, and now we're gonna set this aside and gather our wet ingredients together. Now, in a medium bowl or large measuring cup, we're gonna crack 1 cold egg, bloop, add a teaspoon of vanilla. I'm gonna give this a really quick whisk just to break the egg up. If I added the buttermilk in before mixing the egg, you could have like globs of egg hanging around. It could just be really difficult to mix it up. Now it's time to add 1 1/4 cups of cold buttermilk. Add that right in. Give this a quick mix. Look at that egg incorporating nicely. Set this aside in your fridge so everything stays nice and cold. If you're making this on a hot day, like in the summer when strawberries are in season, things can warm up really quickly, so into the fridge you go. Go ahead and grab 1 cup of cold unsalted butter, and we're gonna cut it up into little cubes. By the way, if you're like, oh, my hands are weak, or like, maybe you have arthritis or something, and cutting butter is not your favorite thing to do, my only hint to you would be to use European style butter, which is so much softer because it's more butter fat. There's less milk solids and water in there. All cubed up and ready to pop into our flour. Add your butter into the flour, sprinkle it in so it's not one giant clump. And now either use a pastry blender or your clean hands to mash it up into little pieces. You want your butter to end up being roughly the size of peas at the largest. Just work it together with your thumbs. This is one of my favorite things to do when I'm baking because it's so relaxing and tactile. I prefer using my hands just because it gives me control over all the piece sizes. Sometimes those blenders can go a bit wild and everything ends up being too tiny, which means your sweet biscuits or shortcakes are gonna be a little bit less fluffy than they could be. These big lumps of butter are gonna turn to steam in the oven and really puff those shortcakes up and give you a lovely texture. Butter makes everything better. By the way, if you like my videos, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. There's 2 new recipes every single week, tons of shorts, and always something delicious around the corner. And if you're making this on a hot day, go ahead and pop this into the fridge if you notice the butter is getting too soft. My ice cold hands, however, don't need that step, so we're gonna grab our cold buttermilk mixture out of the fridge and get to combining. So now using a spatula or fork, you're going to fluff things up and move it along as you drizzle in your buttermilk mixture, and you're gonna mix until you get a shaggy dough, and I'll show you what that looks like. Just move it back and forth and get this milk mixture distributed before you have to start really going into it. Now we're halfway there with very little mixing. Whenever something is supposed to be short or cakey as opposed to bready, you don't want to overmix. That's going to activate the proteins in the flour and it can lead to horrible things happening. Your delicious baked good will come out of the oven looking perfect, but as it cools, those proteins will contract and then it'll become shorter, gummy, dense, and it won't even taste the same. It's a sad story all around. Moral of which is not to overmix. Right, everybody? I'm gonna grab a fork too and just move things around gently because your spatula can get very wet and you still have these dry pockets. That's pretty good. This is a shaggy mixture here. It's coming together, kind of, but like in weird clumps and there's flour in between. That means we're almost ready to form these shortcakes up. There's one step though, and that's to pop this onto your counter and work it by hand quickly and briefly. Quickly and briefly mean the same thing. Sprinkle your counter generously with flour. This is gonna be a very wet, messy mixture. And now we're gonna dump this out. And using well-floured hands, which is also important, Smush it together, and we're gonna work it really gently into a cohesive mass. So it just needs to hold together. So like a squish, lift, squish, and if you have any parts that are like extra floury, just find a wet part and it'll stick together. One or two more squishes or kneads. Once it's a nice cohesive mass, go ahead and pat it into a 1-inch thick disc. So just pat, pat, pat. The enemy of a shortcake is gonna be thinness. If you pat it too thin, it's not gonna have a chance to rise up, and there's not gonna be enough stuff to rise. It'll be a strawberry sad cake. Our shortcakes are ready to cut. Grab a 3-inch circular cookie cutter, and we're gonna get to work. It's a good idea to have a little bit of flour on the counter and just, flour your circle cutter every time you cut. You do not want to seal the edges of this, so you're gonna press straight down, don't twist. Now I'm gonna add a little bit more flour to my cutter, just so it's nice and powdery, and if it gets gunky, wipe it off. It's very good so they don't get stuck. You're gonna have extra dough, and you wanna get about 8 shortcakes from this, so go ahead and just smush it together, cut side to cut side, so it sticks. More flour, and give it a cut. The last few shortcakes you make won't be the most beautiful, but they'll still be delicious, so go ahead and make them anyways. Do not waste this delicious dough. And this little scrap is gonna be my treat when they come out of the oven, so I can nibble on it. If you don't want to eat these all right now, or you wanna make some for later, you can freeze these. Pop them onto a plate, let them freeze solid, then transfer to a freezer bag, and you can bake them from frozen, just adding a few minutes because they'll be much colder. Unlike cookies, you actually want your biscuits to be pretty close to each other, so scoot them over so they're about 1 inch apart. This should help them rise in the oven evenly. Now we're gonna grab 2 tablespoons of cold heavy cream and just brush the tops, not the sides of our shortcakes. This will give us a really nice golden finish and glue for what's going on top. As an optional final step before they go into the oven, I'm gonna add a sprinkling of sugar. It could be coarse or fine, it doesn't really matter. It's just for some sweetness and sparkle and crunch. I'm baking 6 of these today. The other 3 I'm gonna pop into the freezer to have as a treat for later on. These guys go into the oven, 425, for about 15 minutes or until they're golden and lovely. And in the meantime, we're gonna macerate our strawberries. As soon as you pop your biscuits into the oven, grab 1.5 pounds of beautiful strawberries. I would slice these into maybe 1/4-inch thick pieces because you want them to stack nicely when you have your little delicious dessert sandwich. If you want to draw as much water as possible out of these berries, go ahead and do this step first. I would recommend this if your berries are kind of like those sadder supermarket berries, not the amazing summer ones. This way you'll get that flavorless water out. The sugar that we're gonna add will come inside and they'll be extra delicious. And if you're wondering, can I make this with other things? Definitely, you could use any fruit you like for the filling as long as it's something soft. It's like not apple shortcake, but a berry shortcake, that would be delicious. Peach shortcake, I would love that. I weighed out 1.5 pounds of berries, and now we're just gonna add 1/3 cup of granulated sugar, or 67 grams, right into the bowl. Just sprinkle it over and toss your berries as you go along. If you notice any berries are stuck together, go ahead and pull them apart with your spoon. Now we're gonna cover these up and refrigerate while our biscuits bake and cool. And remember, if your strawberries were a little bit sad, just macerate them for longer and they'll be extra delicious. You could even add in like a teaspoon or so of vanilla for a little bit of extra flavor. There you go. My biscuits are out of the oven and just about cool. They look gorgeous and smell so good. The strawberries are macerating in the fridge. So now it's time to make our whipped cream. Add 2 cups or 480 mils of cold heavy cream or double cream right into your mixer. You can always make a little bit more if you want extra too. Now we're also gonna add 1/4 cup or 50 grams of granulated sugar, as well as a teaspoon or so of vanilla. Mix this on low, then go all the way up to high. Keep an eye on this because it's gonna be liquid, 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 done. And once it's done, it's too late. What you actually wanna do is mix this until it's at a very, very soft peak, and then you can finish it off by hand. It's the best way to ensure that your whipped cream will have a wonderful consistency. And just like that, it's all done. It'll help if your bowl is cold and your whisk is cold. If it's a hot day, just pop them into the fridge or freezer. Okay, let's finish this off by hand. And just like that, we have a lovely stiff peak that has not curdled. To assemble, split your biscuits apart. They should be really fluffy with tons of layers. pull apart, top the bottom with a big dollop of whipped cream. Pile strawberries on top, add the other half of the biscuit, and finish off with another dollop of whipped cream and a few more berries. It's gonna be messy, but so delicious. Look at this. Locke, wanna try something?
Yeah, is the strawberry shortcake?
It is, come over here.
Over there, I was licking my lips because it was so delicious.
Which bite do you want? You take that one, I'll take this one. Three,
Good.
2, 1. Light and flaky, perfectly sweet shortcake with all that wonderful whipped cream and those delicious strawberries. It's a combination that's hard to beat. Right, Locke?
Uh-huh.
I hope you get a chance to try this recipe, and if you like my videos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and check out my strawberry playlist.
Bye, thanks for watching, and we hope this recipe is delicious.
Yeah. All right, good job. Another bite?
Yeah.